So look at that. You were a part of this whole thing. 70,000 subscribers we have now. Darby was one of our first guests, always willing to come on and share time with us. Darby's a friend, and she's also a super duper personality in the sports world. Darby, what's up?
Well, congrats, Pete. That's awesome. It's been really cool to see what you've built here. So thanks for having me on.
It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun having you on too. And this is your first camp in a while without covering the Baylor Bears. And when you're sitting wherever you're sitting and you see that Dave Aranda clip goes viral about the Wolf of Wall Street stuff, what are you like? That is now you speak Dave Aranda. So when the rest of the country is like, what the heck is this guy? For a lot of time, I think that was people's first exposure to Dave Aranda. For me and you, that's not the deal. What did you think when you saw that clip?
Well, at the beginning, I was like, oh, Dave, where are you going with this? It was just one of those moments. But, like you said, it's one of many moments that he has had. That one just kind of went super viral here and maybe is the first one we've seen in a while. I feel like he's tried to kind of dial it back at times. Like last year at the beginning of the season, I felt there was a little bit of maybe let's do a little less of that type of stuff. But he seems to be back in his true form. But yeah, I mean, there's just so many moments. I think about the Berenstain Bears stuff he talked about maybe 4 years ago. And then reading that book to kids in Waco, which was amazing. And those types of things. Just, he is a unique person in college football without a doubt. And yeah, if you haven't been exposed to it, a lot of people have now, but he's a unique, he doesn't speak like a lot of coaches. He speaks like Dave Aranda. So it is different.
Yeah, he's a total gift. Remember last year I had to educate you on the Three Amigos because he was talking about El Guapo in a press conference.
There's always something. Yeah, that is so true. Yeah.
All right, so now you're in Austin. Obviously, you've been at Texas camp. I saw you were there yesterday. Give me a vibe check around the Longhorns this year. Obviously, expectations are through the roof, as they should be. What are you seeing and feeling around the team right now?
Yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, you see Arch Manning get out there and lead kind of the pre-practice hoorah moment and then break out into practice. And I think, Texas fans have been looking forward to that for a long time. They've been looking forward to see how Arch will lead this team. And it seems like he really is. He's involved kind of in all the different groups around him. And so the excitement is very high. It's also, there's a lot of question marks, but it's funny because it doesn't feel like there's a lot of people that are doubting this team because they just believe in kind of what Sark has built in that the next group up will be just as strong as the last and kind of just the program that this has become. But there really are a lot of guys. There was a lot of NFL draft picks on last year's team. So there's a lot of gaps to be filled in, but it's, like I said, it's just interesting to see that despite that, nobody's really doubting this team. It's all kind of the hype. The hype train is crazy down here. That is for sure.
What is it about Arch Manning that separates him from so many other quarterbacks as a person? Because if you talk to, we've had people on this show, NFL people that handicap the draft or whatever, and you talk to them about Arch Manning, and it's almost like he's a sure thing as a person, which eliminates a whole lot of concern. Of course, you look at the stock he comes from, but you have had a chance to be around him and just kind of not watch him, talk to him a little bit. Like, what is his deal that makes him just so calm and cool and has everybody believing in him?
Yeah, Texas offensive coordinator earlier this week said, one thing that Arch has to his advantage is that he's been a Manning his whole life. And I think when you know what that means, you get it. And it's true. I mean, he just has been brought up around guys that have had success in football at the highest level for years and done it the right way, treated people the right way, handled the fame, handled the critics, all the different things. And so I think he's taken a lot from, his grandpa, his dad, his uncles, and that is kind of all part of who he is. And I think when you're going to be the quarterback at Texas, you need to be prepared for the media is crazy. The amount of people covering this team, the amount of people nationwide that have eyeballs on you. And then eventually there's going to be some, we've talked about it. He's talked about, I'm prepared for the boos. I'm prepared for moments that aren't going to be so great, but I think he really is prepared for those moments, the highs and the lows. And just the way that he handles even some of the most, veteran sports writers around here. He'll joke with them about their outfits or whatever it is. He just is not afraid to really show up as a human and be answering the tough questions and kind of just be super humble. He's definitely, he'll be the first to say, like, all the Heisman hype and things like that. He's like, I don't really get it. I got to go prove it. And I think it's, maybe it's not 100%. Maybe it's a little like he's selling himself short, but people like that. And I think that's kind of how he feels. He's like, I'm ready to go prove, what I can be. And so I think he has all the right stuff. And now he's just got to see how it all plays out this season.
You ended up in Austin. I think it was just in time for the Red River rivalry game last year, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So you saw the buzz, obviously, from that point on throughout the rest of the season. In Texas, I always tell people, if you go to a Texas game and you're down on the field before the game, really no matter how well, I mean, of course, if they're winning, it's better, but it's always like the state fair, really, like just a regular game. It's just like an environment unlike any other. This year, are you seeing even more of that around the excitement? Like I'm jumping on the point you made about the media at practice and stuff. Has there almost been more of that this year than last year? Like, is it growing and growing?
Well, I wasn't here for fall camp last year, but I'll just say that I've never witnessed anything like this as far as just the amount of reporters and people and the whole thing is just, I mean, it's a super sized program for college sports and you feel that. So I'm sure it's, kind of the standard is what it is around Texas as far as who's all involved. But I have to believe that, it seems to be like there's a lot of interest. And then just the national stories, that part to me stands out too. I mean, Arch Manning has been doing interviews almost the second that Quinn Ewers announced he was going to the NFL, he was doing a sit down, and with the ESPN, and then it's gone on from there. So there's a lot of, it feels like it's not only local, but it's everywhere. Everybody's trying to kind of get in the mix, which again, you can't argue with the fact that even Arch Manning aside, Texas has been just shy of a national championship the last couple of years, and they have signs that they could do the same thing this year. So obviously, they're going to be in the conversation, and it seems to be pretty high.
As a journalist who knows exactly what they're doing, when you show up to a camp or practice like that, like how do you navigate developing like your story ideas and stuff? Like what are you working on now? And like, because there's so much there, right? And you have the access. And we were just talking about before you came on, I talked about in the first block, Colorado quarterback stuff, which is super interesting, but that was more football. Then we talked about just like the changing of the media landscape, right? Mm-hmm. There's just major changes going on. But at the same time, I still think like the CBSs of the world, like they get that first access, and that's you. Like, what are you doing to craft stories with so much going on with a team like this?
Yeah, Pete, I'll be honest with you. It's been kind of a learning lesson for me over this last week because I just feel like I didn't, we were focused a lot on high school football in Waco, which, we don't do as much of here and all these things. So I think I've kind of had to navigate that. Like, all right, where do I start with this team? Because there are so many storylines that you can go off of. I think, you start with what you see, who's standing out at practice, who's coming back from injuries, how do they look, things like that. So you start with what you see. By the way, while you're trying to man a camera and film practice too. So it's hard to be as detailed when you're doing that, but you start with what you see and then you get into the interviews and you talk to Sark on day one and, what's he talking about and who's he calling out and different things, energy type stuff. And then the next day we get a few players and kind of same thing, get a read on different things and kind of build it from there. But there are so many different ways you can go about it, try to dissect it by position group and different competitions for different positions right now is always big. So, it's funny. I don't love all of those stories. I love football, but I want to see football played. I want to be while covering games. I think you could talk about all this stuff forever. And it's like, who knows how it's going to play out? We don't really know. We're going to have to see on August 30th. And I think that, so it's a lot. It's kind of a lot about nothing, but it is exciting.
I was talking to somebody yesterday, like an old school football guy. And the reason why he was telling me, the reason why people love football so much is exactly what you're talking about. Like now we're getting like a month away. And when you're like a week away, it's almost like you start to talk about going on a vacation. Like say you're going to Italy, you talk about it. And then the game is like the vacation. Then on Monday or Sunday in college football, you talk about the vacation. And then the next week you're getting ready for another vacation, right? Like that's why football has worked so well in America over the course of our lives. You mentioned Sark. That's a guy whose story I love to follow. Me with my personal journey, like getting sober. Sark, same deal, like obviously on a much higher level, but like that was a very public fall from grace. And now he's just like, to see him crush it and to see him owning one of the hardest situations in sports is super impressive. Like, what have you taken away from being around Sark? His demeanor, I love how you said, see who he's calling out. Obviously, there's some mental chess that he plays with his guys and maybe coaches. But what have you gleaned from being around a personality and coach like that?
Yeah, he just is very consistent. I feel like you're going to get the same Sark every day. There's never really a time where he shows up to the media and it's like, oh, what's going on with him today? Or you kind of get the same guy. And he's very intentional with his words. He's very strategic about what he's doing and the program he's trying to run. And he's very focused. And as I mentioned, the energy, I felt the energy the last couple of days too. I think it's always there, but obviously I've never been around him in the preseason and it's always going to be a little higher, maybe just as you get it going. But I think the energy is 100% as well. And so all those things combined, it's just, he's consistent. And I do think part of that, his story that you mentioned, he doesn't talk about it really ever. And, why would he on a day-to-day basis? But, it's there. And so I think, what he's been through and the position that he's in now, he just takes it really seriously. He had, it's kind of been reported. NFL's kind of looked at him a bit and he wants to be at Texas. He wants to get a national championship, at Texas. And so I think he just, how much this job means to him. And he just kind of is the same Sark every day, which I think players have to appreciate that too, because nothing's worse than a coach where you're like, you don't know what version.
Oh yeah.
The
totally.
up and down. Yeah. So that's what I see from him.
He's by the way, that's like low key. And you mentioned it. He doesn't talk about it much. I heard him talk to Joel Klatt about it once because they're both sober. Mm-hmm. It's one of the best like comeback stories around. And it's cool. Like, I love the way he handles himself. He's the kind of guy who just like he has what you want.
Right.
I think that's kind of what it's all about. What do you think this Texas team can do this year? Do you think that they're national title bound?
I do. I think their offensive line, they lost 4 starters. So that is, to me, that's not the greatest start, obviously. But they do have some good guys coming in. They feel strong about that group. But I think the quicker that the lines, both sides really, because there's some defensive interior guys that they're missing as well. And they brought in 5 transfers, which is a lot for this team. So the sooner they can figure out up front, the better everything else will go. And I think that's kind of the biggest question right now, as well as some of the receivers. Like, there are gaps on this team, but 7 starters on defense back, Arch Manning, with what we've seen from him so far, I just don't think you can count this team out. And then you kind of look around at, even their pick to win the SEC. And at first I was like, really, are they? But then you look at everyone else and it's like, yeah, why not? So I think if they can do that, they can win the national championship. And, I do think they've been knocking on the door so close for a couple years that you just got to keep on knocking and something will happen. So I do think they can make it happen.
We talk a lot of Big 12 here, and the separation between Texas and Oklahoma since joining the SEC is like, it's getting wider and wider and wider. And this is obviously a huge year for OU. Have you gotten a chance to watch Anthony Hill at all? That guy is like, what kind of player is he, like, when you get to put your eyes on him up close?
Yeah, he always stands out. Every play he makes, it's eye-popping. And he just has an edge too. Like, sometimes the Texas guys won't really tell you like it is. Like, they'll kind of just be whatever when they're in front of him. But he always will be like, no, I'm not messing around. Like, I am doing my job. And you know what you're going to get from him. And so you see that on the field too. I mean, he's incredibly athletic, super smart, and just he's eye-popping. Same thing with Colin Simmons. Those two are unbelievable. And Colin Simmons he's super young and one of the best freshmen in the country last year, and he's going to have another great year too. So those two they're going to cause some problems together, especially. I think it'll be fun to watch.
And never have I ever played quarterback. I cannot imagine what it is like whether you're crouching under center or in shotgun and you're looking at a dude like Anthony Hill, like 113 tackles last year, 8 sacks, like the guy, and he's only getting better from what I hear from people like you. It's kind of cool. One of my favorite promos ever at KWTX was the Classroom Champions promo, where there were 2. You think one Darby Brown is great? We actually had 2. Darby was playing soccer against herself. She was studying. There was an evil Darby that was cheating off of a good Darby. So I wish we had that video. I don't have that, but I do have video of you playing soccer recently.
Oh, no.
Darby, what is going? So, I mean, do we have to have you? This was the Major League Soccer All-Star Game was in Austin, right?
Yes.
This was the Media Wars, which is a great idea, whoever put that together.
Yeah.
But here's Darby. So you played goalie?
Yeah, it was a goalie war competition, which I've never played goalie in my life, of course. I also haven't played soccer since I was like a little kid, like rec soccer. So I do have decent hand-eye coordination. Like there's some athletic ability there, but as far as actually kicking the ball, like definitely not. It was fun though. It was a fun week here to have the All-Star game. But yeah, I'm not a soccer player, that's for sure. I bought cleats for this because I was afraid of injuring myself. And apparently I bought the cheapest cleats I could find at the store, but I guess they were like kind of fancy and everyone's like, oh, you're going to know what you're doing. I'm like, well, no, I didn't even know these were fancy cleats. Like, it was just not my thing. It's funny.
And for people who don't know, Darby is an athlete. She's got sports in her DNA. But when you have something like that, but no matter how good of an athlete you are, when you're a stranger to a sequence of events like that on the field, it can be super weird and super scary. Was there any part of you that was like, I don't want to do this? Because that's how I would have been.
Well, it's funny. I feel like I've had to do this. I don't know what it is, but there's just different things that roll into town. I've had to do this a few times here in Austin, and I kind of just figure it out. I do.
Well,
go back to
it's so likable. Like literally, it's so funny what grabs us. Like as you scroll through Twitter, there's so much crap. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like what is this? And like it's not like it doesn't take somebody to know you that has to see that. It's super cool and it's super endearing and like it's weird. It's almost like I feel like we kind of are getting away from that a little bit, but it's like it's something that still everybody loves. It's a home run.
Yeah. I'm definitely not afraid to make fun of myself. I also will say, like, as far as being nervous, like I do know I work out. I can do basic athletic stance, can hold whatever. I can get by, but my coworker actually played soccer. Of course, he was out of town, so then I had to play. So I was like, all right, well, we'll do what we can. But yeah, it was funny. I've also tried to do roller derby once. That was way worse, by the way, way worse. So we'll see what I have to do next around here. There's always something.
Were you nervous? Did you know you were going to get proposed to? Darby's engaged, everybody. What was that? Did you know? Were you nervous?
No, I had no idea. I actually almost like ruined it because I was like, we were going to go to brunch with his parents. And I was like, I'll just go to hot yoga and like put my hair up like it is now and whatever. I'll drive separate, meet you there, whatever. And so I had no idea. And then I didn't know until we walked into this place that I thought was going to be a restaurant to see his parents. And then it was not a restaurant. And we were the only 2 people in this whole like property they had rented out. And I was like, oh my gosh, wow. And then I just immediately started crying. So I was completely, I had no idea. So no nerves because I was clueless, which is probably better, but yeah.
Was it a blur after it went down? Were you almost like, I can't like what was that like?
Yeah. We had a photographer there that he had like told to, be hiding or whatever. And so then after it happened, we tried to take like photos and I was just so kind of like flustered and like what just happened. I was like, I don't really want to take photos right now. I feel like I'm like, oh my gosh. So it was definitely a blur, but it was a good day and it's been fun trying to, plan a wedding and all the things, but yeah.
Is it? I'm having a different experience over here, but
you're not having fun. Well,
no, it's fine. We were last night. It was funny, and I'll listen to the last thing, and then we'll let you go. But we were talking about like a photographer, and like, obviously we want a photographer at the church, but then like at the reception, we're not sure. And then Christy's like, well, maybe we can do this thing with like QR codes on a table where people, I was like, I don't want people walking in seeing a QR code. But then I'm like, you know what? I just need to stop talking and just do whatever she wants to do. Like,
Yeah.
because these conversations, there's never been one of these conversations where it's like, damn, Pete, you're right. Yeah. Like, at least not in this realm of stuff, right?
Yeah, so true. My fiance Luke, he's like, he'll try to suggest something, and I'm like, or we do this. And he's like, okay, yeah. So yeah, he kind of gives in. But anyways, exciting times.
Yeah, I'm working off the same playbook. Luke and I are. All right. Well, look, Darby, thank you so much for joining us. Keep kicking ass, and we'll talk to you soon here during football season. You know the deal. You need anything, you just holler.
Yeah, I'm coming to Waco for that big concert. Excited about that.
Oh, really? What is that?
August 23rd, I think.
Okay.
So,
look at you.
Yeah.
What's the big concert? Tell me. I'm like out of touch.
Turnpike Troubadours and Cross Canadian Ragweed and a bunch of other guys. I think it's the first concert they've ever had at McLean, so that'll be fun. So
wow, all right, Darby. Good. Well, I don't know that you should have alerted everybody. Now all your fans are going to be at McLean. Darby Brown, folks. Darby, where can people find you on Twitter? Cool stuff like that.
At Darby Joe Brown on pretty much all social media. But yeah, you can see me try to play soccer or whatever other sport. Love that you brought that up.
I got you covered, Darby. You're one of my all-time favorites. All right, we'll talk soon.
Okay.
All right, that was Darby Brown, just one of the all-time cool